welcome to our dinCloud webinar, Growing Your Business with the Cloud. We are thrilled to have you with us this morning, as well as our expert panelists, Santa Clara University Professor of Economics, Alexander Field, and dinCloud Chief Security Officer, Garret Grajek. We're also joined by dinCloud's Mark Gerke for a short demo. So we're happy to have everyone with us today to give you a well-rounded perspective on today's economy and its impact on cloud-hosted resources in your business. We're going to get right into our main presentation in just a few minutes, but first I have a couple of housekeeping items. Please enter your questions in the questions box on the right-hand side, which I will relay to our speakers this morning at the end of the presentation. We do send out a survey at the end of the webinar. Please fill out the survey and let us know how we did and topics you'd like to see on future webinars. The first 10 people to fill that out will receive a copy of our speaker Alexander Field's book. We are also recording this webinar, and we'll have that available for playback on our website at dincloud.com/webinars. You can also view our upcoming webinar schedule on dincloud.com/events. To go over just a brief agenda, we will start with the state of the economy in 2015, followed by what it means for your IT and how dinCloud can help. Plus, Mark Gerke is going to walk you through a short demo before we open it up for questions. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Alexander Field, our first presenter for today, Professor of Economics at Santa Clara University. So, Alexander, please feel free to take it away when you're ready.
Okay, just a sec. Show my screen. Hold on. Okay, well, thank you very much, Holly, for the introduction. I'm happy to give a brief overview of the state of the U.S. economy. I'll try to keep this to 8 to 10 minutes. I think, as most everybody is aware, we have been very slowly coming out of a very serious and steep recession that ran between 2007 and 2009. And as a consequence of that, the unemployment rate has been declining and the employment rate has been rising, which I think is probably the most important concern for most of the people listening to this webinar. If you look at the first chart that I put up there, you can see the civilian unemployment rate running from about 2005 to the current day. The shaded area there is the period of the recession following the financial crisis. You can see the very steep rise in the unemployment rate from about 5% up to about 10% in 2009, and then the gradual decline back down to 5.5% or so right now. It's important to understand, just in terms of what the unemployment rate means, I think the way it's calculated, a certain amount of unemployment is actually beneficial because it involves people actively searching for jobs and employers actively looking for employees. That matching function is good. So long as people are actively looking for work, they're considered in the labor force. On the other hand, the unemployment rate can also not capture certain aspects of the employment market. For example, it does not make an adjustment for those people who might have been involuntarily pushed from full-time to part-time work. So long as you've worked 1 hour in the past week, you're considered employed during the survey. It also doesn't take account of the fact of the people who have become discouraged from searching for work. You have to have been actively looking for work in the period of the survey in order to be considered in the labor force. So let me move on now to the second slide. Okay, this is the what we just saw was the unemployment rate, which is essentially the number of people unemployed divided by the labor force, which is the sum of those unemployed plus those employed. Here we see the actual numbers on total employees, and again you can see this runs from 2005 to 2015, and you can see the rise there in 2005 and 2006, 2007 at the peak of the residential construction boom. Then at the end of 2007, we do go into recession. You see the very steep decline from about over 138 million to under 130,000 during the course of the the recession, and then the gradual recovery of total employment. And you can see that finally, in the first part of 2014, total employment in the economy rose above where it had been at the peak prior to the recession, and it has continued to rise, which is, of course, good news. Let me go now to the third slide. Sorry. This is a picture not of employment, but of real gross domestic product. Real meaning that the effects of price changes have been taken out. actually, because we've had very moderate inflation during this 10-year period. The effects, the differences between nominal and real GDP are pretty small. But again, you see the same pattern here with billions. This is in 2009 dollars. You can see from 2005 up to early 2007, fairly sharp rise in total flow of goods and services produced in the economy. Then, as we'd expect during the shaded period, which was the serious recession from 2007 to 2009, gross domestic product declines, and as you can see, it has been rising steadily since then. For the fourth slide. Now, this shows us the civilian employment to population ratio, and it's kind of a counterpoint to that unemployment rate that I wanted to show you before. And what we see here, this goes way back to 1950, what we see here is in spite of the recovery of the unemployment rate, there was a very sharp drop in the ratio of employment to population that took place during the recession, and we really haven't come out of that. So again, I wanted to give you a nuanced picture of the economy, and let you know that although the unemployment rate has recovered to pre-recession levels, obviously a certain substantial number of people who were in the labor force have left the labor force permanently and have not come back. Now, some of those are baby boomers retiring, but I think there's also been some long-run negative consequences of the recession and the long period in which output has been below potential. Just in terms of the different output being below potential, I wanted to show you this graph, which again runs from roughly the last 10 years, from 2005 to 2000. This is a forecast up to 2024. This data is from the Congressional Budget Office. Again, this is gross domestic product. The blue line is actual gross domestic product, and essentially we saw that graph just a little bit earlier. You can see the sharp downturn there in 2007, 2009, and then it has been increasing. But I want to draw your attention to the green line. The green line on the top is the projection of potential or full employment GDP as forecast by the Congressional Budget Office in the January or February of 2008. And you can see that the blue line up through the 2014 is actual data. Beyond that is forecast. But you can see that there remains a very substantial gap between actual GDP that we've experienced and what's forecast and what was projected as potential back in 2008. The red line represents what the Congressional Budget Office now projects as potential, and you can see partly as a consequence of the recession and slow recovery, they have cranked that down, and that represents in some sense the permanent negative effects of the financial crisis and the recession. Just in case the notion of potential output is a little bit unclear, you can think of that as full employment output, about the highest level of output that the economy can sustain given its population and its technology and its capital without so stimulating it that you get an acceleration of the inflation rate. Well, we're almost done here. Let me see. I also just wanted to show you, I think, another trend that we do need to be, if I give you a full nuanced picture of the economy, is that there has been a very substantial increase in both income and wealth inequality in the economy over the last 30 years, and that's reflected here. This is a 50-year chart in the share of gross domestic income going to labor as opposed to capital. You can see that there's been a fairly substantial downward movement in that share, particularly since 1980, which is part of the reason that I think we ran into trouble, because in order to sustain consumption, many people in the population needed to send more workers into the labor force and also had to go increasingly into debt in order to sustain consumption. Okay. Finally, I'm going to close with this slide. This is a chart of the Consumer Price Index for the United States, and you can see that in spite of concerns which have been expressed about the possibility of inflation over the last 6 or 7 years, actual inflation went negative for a brief period in 2009, and it has been running actually under 2%. So that's generally good news for the economy. It's not so great if you're in an oil-producing state. But anyway, that's what I've tried to give in this brief presentation, just an overview of the recovery from the financial crisis and the recession of 2007-2009. The recovery is continuing. There are some nuances to this, which I will be happy to discuss in the question period. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. And now with that, then we are going to switch over to our very own Garret Grajek, dinCloud Chief Security Officer. So Garret, when you are ready, please feel free to take it away.
Greetings, Holly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Great. Great overview. And let's take it to the tactical IT world. I've been in IT since, since 17 years old, been employed this way for over 33 years. Just saw this morning, IT growth for 2015 is looking to grow almost 7%. Okay, having worked from everything from my own shop to 2-4 people to the big guys at IBM and Cisco, RSA, all IT spending is not equal. And some of it, unfortunately, and we'll keep it to this call, sometimes it's not spent the best way. So what we got to think about the growth, how we're going to handle, tactically speaking, storage, servers, desktop, security, and the last two, I will argue, are combined, security and support. Because the whole thing is we buy all this equipment, technology, and security technology, so we know how to use it. So let's start with storage. So how are we going to handle, is Alex just told us, we do see more productivity, more users, more employees, and I'm not going to go into whether they're on staff or off staff. They still need, for us IT people, we still need to record and get the identity info. We still got to log it. We still got to handle all the documents and email. But most importantly in our world, we are all under regulations now. Most IT that works with, and so you got to have primary storage and backups, and you got to be able to prove that you could do this. And not to pick on people who just got hacked, so maybe it'll come up in this call or not, but is your data being encrypted? Is it being encrypted in the storage? Servers. Okay, this is big. And this was, remember, if we look at the cloud, where did we first go in the cloud? Sure, we did some email all the way back to the early 90s. But the first thing IT said was, wow, do I really need to have all these racks, right? Can I move these servers up there? So that's where I look at. Now we're looking at some growth here. Good. How do I handle our new web servers and data servers and app servers? Are we really going to go down the hall and create a whole bunch of new racks or et cetera? When, as you'll see when Mark Directory shows, it's just as easy as point and click to add all your Linux and all your other servers. Desktops. This is something that I want to pause and give some thought to. What I is doing a briefing with a major analyst, and the analyst said, all right, got it, guys, like your cloud infrastructure, like your security model. My thing I need to write about, and that's why analysts always talk to you, they need to write something. How do I burst? And what they're saying is, look at the numbers Alex showed us, right? We got growth happening, but in some fields, and our friends in the oil industry, and I'm a UT grad, so I feel for them, right? They had to create all this infrastructure and all this growth around a surge in oil, right? But if they bought everything with all these long-term committed costs, and I know Alex is a better word for this, especially desktops, et cetera, well, that's kind of tough. Well, what if they grow the way our customers are looking when we're doing desktops as a service? I need to get on 500 people online. That's where maybe for your groups and maybe for people in the audience, what we might want to look into is hosted virtual desktops in the cloud that we can spin up or deprovision quickly. Security and support, like I said, these next two are things. How do we handle security on all this, right? We all know that hackers are not a ubiquitous group. You know, there is the script kiddies, that type of stuff. Now the world is full of APT-type hackers, advanced persistent threat. All that means, and we always need an acronym, all APT means is that a hacker identifies you the company, as its target. Now, what hack is he using? I don't know. He's going to run all sorts of scans. You can run Nexus, download that. You can find all sorts of information about your enterprise, what app server you're running, what network equipment you're running, what's your web servers, etc. And then he contrasts that with his known list of vulnerabilities, and then does the hacks accordingly. So how are you going to do security in this new environment? And lastly, for all these issues, support, desktops, servers, security, what's the staffing? Seriously, if we got to spin up a new group or a new segment of the business, not only do we need to get the equipment, but we need to map the right staff around the equipment. And that is, and we all have our pet peeves around IT, that is my CSO of dinCloud's perception of all this. It's not that the enterprises are not buying the right equipment. That's simply not correct. Look what they said, 7% growth in IT spending this year. Who else has that luxury in the U.S., right? Is it being staffed correctly? I would argue not. All right, so let's look at what dinCloud, and I always answer that, what does your company do? What is the purpose of dinCloud? dinCloud is to handle enterprises to handle this type of growth. The bursting, as that one analyst said, right? Storage. We got you covered. We got an amazing story. I got a great white paper on storage that me and the guy who's doing the demo, Mark, put together. What do you need? You need your S3 storage. You need your Veeam backup, right? You've got to have this encrypted. You got to have this snapshot every day, right? You need a couple of locales across the country that you want to store this. We got this solved for you. Storage is huge. And real important figure, the number one resource that moved to the cloud was storage, only followed by servers. Okay? Servers, got a great story. And there's something really important about servers, and that's where I started my career, was in servers and maining and whatever. What is the service you need? Now, if you have to staff your group to understand, okay, guys, yeah, we got 2012, 2008 service, but now we got to get up to 2012. Oh, I'm sorry, this app needs CentOS. This app needs a Linux flavor of Ubuntu, etc. If you don't have the staff around there, like dinCloud has, it could be a lot of pain. But that's really important to remember. When you're looking at how to deploy your servers, look to the cloud, because not only do we have the equipment, but we have the people around it to get it deployed. Desktop as a service. Desktop as a service. Repeat that again. It's one of the coolest things that dinCloud offers, right? So not only do you storage, not only do you servers, do your backup, disaster recovery, business, etc., but what could be more disaster recovery and business continuity than having, this is what some of our customers do, standby desktops ready to go for you, for your growth and for your backups. Security, that's my penchant. We got an amazing story here. What Mark is going to show you when he does a demo is the way we architected the dinCloud cloud. What's relevant in the diagram I'll show you is the dinCloud cloud for you is your cloud. It's a virtual private cloud, and we've done all the relevant infrastructure and network design that you would do if you built your own cloud. IP addressing network inside, outside, IPsec tunnel down to your enterprise, a scalable virtual firewall router system dedicated to you. And then the really cool stuff. Of course, we got the AV malware, but we got encryption for on-rest and in-transit data, and the really cool stuff, the IP reputation, threat detection, two-factor authentication, real-time monitoring, etc. All the stuff, right, which I say, all the stuff which your team may or may not, probably not, have the skills to manage. That's what's going on in security. You can buy security equipment, right? But unless you have the right guys to deploy it and monitor it, it's unfortunately just expensive shelfware. All right, not to steal Mark's thunder, This is what we're going to show you, and let me do a little John Madden here for you. This is your enterprise today, and someone said, hey, we got to spin up a new group, okay, and they're going to be out of X. You know, in the old days, it would be in my old stopping ground, Calgary, or something like that, right? All right, why not look to dinCloud? Because what we're going to do is build you out an IPsec tunnel to your virtual private cloud, and then handle all your storage, servers, and desktop needs. And this cloud is yours. You can put the servers you want on there. We'll manage them. We'll deploy them. We'll spin them up as high and provision them and deprovision them as you need. Okay, let's turn it over to Mark and put the rubber to the road and show what we have.
Thanks, Garrett. Appreciate that. I'm going to show my screen now. This is Mark Kirky with dinCloud. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your time. So as Garrett mentioned, we offer desktops as a service, hosted virtual servers, and cloud storage. Everything can be provisioned and managed from A to Z with our DIN Manage tool, which I'm going to show you now. So basically what you need to do is just go to shop.dincloud.com, go ahead and sign up. It takes about 30 seconds. So once you log in, you're going to see your dashboard. And this is kind of what the dashboard looks like. So from here, you got a number of functions. I'll kind of walk you through that. So on the left side, you can place orders, which I'll show you. You can get your order history. You can get reports. My profile is we add new users. Channel partners are for our channel partners tab. And then support is we view your support tickets in real time or issue new support tickets. You can also send support tickets via email as well. So that's kind of sidebar functionality. Then from the dashboard, you get a snapshot of what your current environment looks like. So you've got your hosted virtual desktops. We offer two flavors, our DIN HVD and our Web HVD. If anybody wants to learn more, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to have a technical deep dive. Servers, you can kind of see what your breakout there is, Windows versus Linux. Security is kind of where you set up, that virtual private data center that Garrett had mentioned. We give each customer their own dedicated virtual appliance that basically provides the networking, the routing, the firewall functionality, and the VPN functionality. We've integrated that into our DIN Manage portal, so you can actually stand up an environment from A to Z, and I'll show you how to do that. You can get some of your machine stats, your storage. This is our cloud storage platform. It's S3 compatible for offsite backup and recovery. We're going to encrypt the data in transit. We're also going to encrypt it at rest for security. Not many folks are doing that. We're only charging customers for one copy, but technically we're storing 3, 2 in the data center that you're targeting, and then we'll replicate to another data center through automation. That's all included in the pricing. Then you can also get a snapshot of your trouble tickets and some centralized public documents, user guides, technical assistance guides, questionnaires, etc. that we use throughout the process. So everything's kind of available to you from the portal. So it's kind of the snapshot. And what I'll actually do is show you how easy it is to actually create that virtual private data center and spin up an environment from soup to nuts. So it's really simple. So basically step 1 is register, which you go to shop.dincloud.com. Step 2 is you go to My Security. We've automated the entire process. This is a demo environment, so step 1 is you have to create a subnet. I'm not going to get too technical on the call, but as long as the subnet on our end doesn't conflict with a subnet on the customer's end, we've got no issue. So flexible networking, you can bring any IP schema you like, no restrictions whatsoever. Step 2 is you set up the firewall rules. Everything comes locked down. You just open it up by source and destination. We've got a wizard to do that. Makes it real simple. So you kind of set up the rules. And then we establish the VPN tunnel. So we're going to typically connect a site-to-site VPN from our data center back to the customer's site, and we'll typically leverage their existing firewall or VPN concentrator as long as it's IPsec compatible, which all of them are, and we'll be able to establish a connection, so no additional equipment required on the customer's end. And we've automated this process as well. To add a VPN is very simple. Just enter the information. We've got some templates created where if you want a high, medium, and low security policy, as long as the policy is on both ends for phase 1 and phase 2, IC and ESP key exchange, everything will come up. So the tunnel will come up. Once it comes up, it looks like that. You now have your virtual private data center created, and then we basically start placing orders. So I'll show you the order process. So from here, I can order Windows servers. I can order virtual desktops. I can order Linux servers. We've got a new global DNS service that we just integrated with, and our cloud storage, our D3 storage platform. Just to kind of show you what the process is like to spin up a desktop. And typically what we'll do is, for customers, we'll have their desktop and their server images in their library, so when they go to spin up resources, they're spinning it up from their template. But for the demo purposes, I'll just kind of take you through what it looks like to spin up a base desktop. And here's an example of some templates that we've kind of created, but again, customers can kind of create and bring their own desktop. Just to kind of show you what that looks like if you want to provision something with Office 2013 Professional on there. We show you all the details, everything you get, all the security. We're going to provide encryption, we're going to provide malware, antivirus protection, etc. And the base configuration is 3 gigs of memory, 2 processors, 60 gigs worth of drive space, so that's included in the configuration. And from here it says your basic shopping cart experience. You can change the quantity, the pricing will change accordingly, etc. It says add to cart, check out, and once you do that, you'll see the desktops in your portal. You'll be able to manage them remotely. So kind of like Garrett had mentioned, centralized management, making everything easy to manage. So again, let's go to My HVD. And then from here, you can kind of see the HVD machine name. You give it the username. You can drill down and get additional information on that machine. When was it ordered? You can go back to the order history and look it up. You get the IP address information, what subnet is it on. This one happens to be refreshing. But again, then from here, you can take some additional actions. So we've built some functionality into the portal. So you can remote console or VNC remotely get to your desktops or service right from the portal. Or you can RDS by IP address. A lot of times it's easier just to go to the web portal. Or if you can't get through a firewall because it doesn't allow RDS or something to that effect, you can always get there from our portal. You can power on, power off a virtual desktop or a server. You can restart it. You can upgrade, downgrade resources on the fly. That's kind of the value of the cloud, being able to scale up, scale down in demand, only pay for what you use as you need it. Again, so that can all easily be done from the portal, and the system is smart enough to know what you're spending today, so it's only going to show you the differences if you're upgrading or downgrading resources. You can change the password for this remote console, and you can also switch networks. You can move virtual desktops from one subnet to another, and then you can deprovision a virtual server or virtual desktop. If you do that, 2 things happen. 1, the billing stops, and number 2, we hold it in this My Deprovision tab for 48 hours for free as a convenience, a value add to our customers. Basically, if they change their mind, made a mistake, they can always go back. That VM will be there for 48 hours. So that's really how easy it is to manage desktops. Servers are just as easy. I'll show you that. You're going to get the machine name. You can give it a label. This happens to be an Active Directory server. You see the resources when it was a provision. You basically get the same actions with servers as you do with desktops, with the exception of not being able to move it from one subnet to another. Typically, customers are moving desktops from one subnet to another, but not servers. So I just kind of showed you in a few moments how easy it really is to set up an environment from A to Z, start spinning up resources, and then manage those resources. So again, I want to thank everyone for their time. And anybody has any questions, would like have a technical discussion or more information, please feel free to reach out. Again, I'll turn it back over to you, Holly. So again, thanks everyone.
Great, thank you, Mark. With that, then I think we may be ready to wrap up the presentations today. I'm going to.
Great. Yeah. So in summary, basically what we have addressed is there is growth. It's got to be intelligent. We're going to see more spending this year in IT. But what are we going to do about tactical issues such as storage, servers, and desktops? And we argue here at dinCloud, it's the way we've set this up and what you saw, the orchestration tool that Mark showed you, were the better way to do it. Rapid deployment of services in a way, as it's called bursting, provision and deprovision quickly. So sorry, Holly, why don't we do some questions if we have some.
Great. Thank you, everyone. It's a great presentation today. We do have some time remaining for questions, so if anyone on the line has any, please feel free to enter those in the questions box, and I will relay them to the speakers. We had a couple come in, so we'll kick those off. The first one is for you, Alex. It says, are we likely to see an increase in inflation?
I think ever since the Federal Reserve started its massive expansion of its balance sheet through the process of keeping short rates at 0 and longer rates also low due to quantitative easing, people have been predicting that there's going to be an acceleration of the inflation rate. A lot of people bought tips as a result, And everyone who expected the expansion of what's called high-powered money to cause an expansion in the rate of growth of the consumer price index or the GDP deflator have been wrong for the last 6 or 7 years and have lost money as a result. My own expectation, eventually people who are predicting inflation are going to be right. That's bound to happen soon. Given particularly the drops in oil prices, I think we're actually at probably greater risk of having the inflation rate go negative. It's the actual inflation rate, as we saw on my last slide, is below 2% now. Holly, you still
Thank you,
there?
Alex.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Our next question is for you, Garrett. It says, with the hacks as of late, how does the dinCloud store relate?
Yeah, the main thing is, and maybe that was before I went through some of the details, but the main thing I say is that we have staffed to utilize equipment that stops these hacks. I'm not going to go through all the big ones, et cetera, but major retailer, which I still use, so no picking on them, right? What was the big hack on them? Big retailer, all used, it was through the HVAC system. So they went into the back end of the retailer, right? And there was no two-factor on the VPN, and they were to hack into and then get through the entire network and then take millions of PII records, a million credit cards. That type of hack is what we've mitigated here, right? By using two-factor and by segregating our systems. That's what you get out of the cloud, the one that's dedicated to security. We have advanced technology people, myself, and a whole staff of network CCIEs, et cetera, that have set up the system to be secure, bought the right technology, and the differentiator is our staff and trained to actually use the technology. So I'd say we are addressing the hacks of late, yes.
Great, thank you. And next question goes back to you, Alex. What about short-term interest rates? Are we likely to see an increase in those as well?
Well, about 11 months ago, Janet Yellen, the chairwoman of the Board of Governors of the Fed, predicted that the Fed would abandon its low interest rate policy sometime in the spring of 2015. There's some indication that they're still on track to do that, but other people concerned, as I was just describing, about the fact that the inflation rate has actually fallen below the implicit target of 2% for a number of recent quarters, are putting some pressure on the Fed to hold off in terms of finally beginning to raise rates back up to normal rates. I think, as most people are aware, the short-term federal fund rate has been very close to zero for at least the last 7 years, and long rates have also been low. Eventually, of course, that extraordinary situation will end. So there's some uncertainty now whether that's going to be in a few months or perhaps later in 2015 or the summer or the fall.
Great, thank you. And let's see, I do have one more question. This one is for you, Mark. It says, how does this scale across continents or across regions?
Sure. Thanks, Holly. Well, one of the benefits of the cloud is elasticity, having the ability to scale up, scale down on demand. We have users all over the world using our service, Europe, Asia, Africa, etc. So, no issues with scaling across continents or regions. So appreciate that. Thanks, Holly.
Great. Thank you. If anyone does have any last-minute questions now, please go ahead and enter those in the questions box. But I'm not seeing anything come in. So if you need to reach out to us after the webinar, if you have any questions, please reach out to sales@dincloud.com, or as you see on the screen here, you can reach out to any of our speakers today if you want to get a little bit more information. We'd be happy to speak to you. So with that, many thanks to you all for joining us, and many thanks to Alexander Field, Garret Grajek, and Mark Gerke for all coming on the webinar today. Please remember to fill out our survey after the webinar and check dincloud.com/webinars for our on-demand recordings. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again on future webinars. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.